Very few terms get espresso nerds as worked up as dual boiler, because it's essentially seen as the pinnacle or the peak of efficiency and workflow. And when it comes to Breville, their dual boiler has long been an enthusiast staple. So today, we're taking a close look at Breville's newest dual boiler that's aiming to please both those who want automation and those who are seeking control. And in this video, we'll be doing a quick overview of the Oracle dual boiler, going over its overall performance and usability, and the ever-present quirks and downsides. Though in the spirit of full disclosure, as always, the folks at Breville offered me the dual boiler for review, but of course agreed to my terms of no access to my draft or the contents of this review prior to full public release. But with all that out of the way, we're going to dive right into it after a quick word from this video's sponsor. If you're into coffee, its culture, and learning about the world around it, Standart magazine is the perfect addition to your brew bar or coffee table. With quarterly releases, they shed light on issues both inside and outside of the cafe, highlight people who elevate the industry, and deep dives into new ideas around all things coffee. And to sweeten the deal even further, each issue also includes a sample of coffee from some of the best roasters on the planet to give you the full sensory experience. You really can't beat the combination of fresh coffee and fresh print. So head on over to standartmag.com/Sprometheus or use code Sprometheus at checkout to get $5 off your very own subscription of coffee and culture, shipped direct to your door nearly anywhere in the world with a money-back guarantee. If you're still on the fence, you can actually try Standart today for just the cost of shipping. There's not much to lose, and trust me, there's a lot to gain. On the outside, the dual boiler fits directly into the current day Breville aesthetic. The metallic body panels, external grinder hopper, and a relatively compact footprint for a full grind, brew, and steam platform. Up top, it has a 340-gram hopper that grinds using Baratza's newest 40mm conical burrs, the M2, and it simultaneously doses and tamps those grinds into a 58mm portafilter using a propeller system. And even though a lot of these things all sound very familiar and look very familiar, there are some new features on the inside, both big and small, worth discussing. On the topic of grinding, the dual boiler has moved to a full electronic grind adjustment, where grind sizes are changed digitally. And when the new auto dial-in is engaged, it also tracks shot times and adjusts your grinds automatically to keep things within the ideal time range. On its face, you may also recognize the full-color heads-up display and the standard homepage that lets you scroll through pre-installed drink formats, which give you a hands-off automated brewing experience, as well as the ability to add custom options, or up top change settings for the drinks, maintenance, and the machine overall. But now when you swipe up on that menu, it launches their new manual mode, which is designed to give you a more direct control over the shop phases, like pre-infusion and blooming, which we'll get more into in the next section. For steaming, you've got the ability to use it manually, or their Auto-Milq mode, which gives you the ability to set the temperature, microfoam level, and even the type of milk. Also inside the dual boiler, just like the Jet, is a removable 2.3-liter water tank that feeds the water throughout the machine. But unlike the Jet, this feeds two boilers, hence the dual boiler, a large one for steam, and a smaller one for brewing that sits just above the portafilter. And of course, the big selling point of a dual boiler is its workflow, meaning you can pull your espresso and steam at the same time. And when coupled with the newly added level of automation, powered by a quad-core processor, it definitely is a serious kitchen counter appliance. Now, with a better understanding of what sets the dual boiler apart from its nearly identical twin, the Jet, let's talk performance and usability. From a cold start to brewing temperature, it takes about 5 minutes, though as I often recommend, letting things warm up a bit longer around the portafilter is never really a bad idea for added stability. But one of the major brewing differences on this machine from the Jet is the new addition of their manual mode. Just a quick swipe up on the display gives you a whole new view, centered with a large digital pressure gauge. On this screen you can change the grind size, adjust steaming parameters, and of course pull your shot. Tapping the M button starts the pre-infusion stage. A press and hold enters blooming, which is just leaving the pressure and water inside the group to further saturate the puck, and another tap will enter the full brew mode, running up to and sometimes beyond 9 bars. And regardless of your skill level or how you like to approach brewing, whether it's more manual or more on the automated side, you can very quickly and easily dial in a coffee and get a tasty shot of espresso out of it, which I think is one of the big benefits or big selling points of these style of Breville machines. And when it comes to steaming, it's basically the same story. The power behind the wand is pretty good, and it provides a nice dry steam, plus it has a thermometer built in to prevent scalding. And the Auto-Milq system, though not perfect, does produce some pretty nice texture after you let it rest for a second or knock out the bubbles manually. Personally, I found on whole milk, setting 3 works actually really well for latte art. As we've seen, the dual boiler does perform well. It does give a bit of a boost in workflow from its close sibling, the Jet, but much like the Jet, there also is some quirks and downsides worth discussing. And in this case, I think I'm going to start with the largest issues I think I have with it down to the smallest. And I think the biggest one, and if you've watched many reviews in the past, this might not be a surprise, but there is a shocking over-reliance on tech. And one thing I noticed almost immediately after plugging it in is that when idle, the machine both sounds and smells a lot like a hot computer. So that quad-core processor is definitely working. But for everything, for something as simple as a grind change, to move that into a solely digital interface does seem like it's creating a potential domino effect of possible problems, where any electronic gremlins or maybe a faulty update could essentially brick the entire machine. Another big potential sticking point is the price. At $3,000, which is $1,000 more than the Jet, it doesn't seem like you're getting much more in terms of brewing and steaming capabilities beyond running them simultaneously. And that time saved with being able to do those both together, I think is essentially lost in the time it takes for the dual boilers to heat up when the Jet is instant and you only have to wait about 30 seconds between steaming and brewing. The manual mode, though a nice touch, I think it still feels way too much like it's on rails, essentially just going from one pre-programmed phase to the next, and the feature that I would really want for this, being pressure control, at the very least changing the peak pressure, isn't there. And even though I do think the grinder is pretty effective, and it uses those Baratza burrs that they sourced, which come from the ESP or ESP Pro, which in my own words, I consider to be one of the most forgiving and widest sweet spot burrs out there, the impeller-propeller tamping distribution system still, leaves some shot quality on the table, as you can see from bottomless extractions, so that could use some work. And finally, when you first start up the machine and you're going through the selecting the language and all that fun stuff at the beginning, it does urge you to download the companion app. And so I thought, there could be some cool settings or something I could do with that. But unfortunately, the app is purely just a glorified remote on-off. When it comes to reviewing these Breville Oracle series machines, I do have to continually remind myself that, much like the Jet, the dual boiler was built more so for convenience than the connoisseur. But that's not to say what it produces won't please a connoisseur. The espresso is tasty and well extracted, and the milk texture is consistent and smooth after a few taps. So it does achieve a high level of convenience. But that convenience does come at a cost, both in terms of monetary because it is an expensive machine, but also in terms of, at least for me, peace of mind. Because my concern is some electronic fault somewhere could essentially turn it into a $3,000 brick. Though admittedly, I have no reason to doubt the long-term reliability of these modern Brevilles, as the Jet is still running strong nearly a year later. But I can't help but look at that machine as just as good, with similar quirks and a significantly lower price. But on that bombshell, I think it's time to start wrapping this one up, and as always, pass the conversation on to you. So what are your thoughts on Breville, the new dual boiler, and the continued push towards automation? Do you think it's a loss of potential craft in the future, or do you think it's going to help reduce waste of coffee as things get more expensive? Drop your answer to those questions and any others you may have in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell button for notifications when new videos drop. Check out my Instagram at Sprometheus for more coffee content. Help support the channel by considering becoming a member for exclusive perks. And as always, stay caffeinated. Pony Boy.